Hello, wild and woolly interwebs. It is I, Hewlett, least fit of all the nerds, the Lord of Lard here, and I apologize, oh great and wonderful interwebs. It has been 2 days, 2 large pizzas, and 22 chicken wings since I last saw you, since I last exercised. So Sunday rolls around, Jane's doing yoga with the kid. It's not really room for me to flail around as well, so I thought, I have no excuse, go downstairs, step upon the torture device and learn a little bit of stuff while you do some burning. And I should say this is a burn and learn. So this is my bid to stay alive and fit long enough to raise my amazing son, currently on summer holidays. God, remember that feeling? That like, it's summer holidays. God, so great. Anyways, and to enjoy the coming twilight years, my brilliant, beautiful wife, Jane, who's definitely not on holidays. She's working her brains out trying to get this... these movies going in a very difficult time. So no holidays for her. And I hate exercise. It's boring. So I like to learn something while I'm doing. I like to share what I've learned with you in the sweatiest, most miserable, self-indulgent way possible. Thus, this vision that you see before you. This great sweaty vision. I am continuing to read, so you want to talk about race? Obviously I invite anybody who wants to step into this fray to do so. Anybody who does not want to, then you should watch another video, honestly, because I'm looking into this stuff. I'm very eager to understand my place and involvement in this sort of systemic racism throughout our world, basically. I want to see, basically, what I've been responsible for, what I should be responsible for in the future, and as is suggested in the book, not to make it all about me. I am exploring this for myself. I think it's important, and in doing so, I've discovered that it isn't about me and my perspective on this stuff. It is about a system that needs to be changed. So that is what. That is basically the thesis for these coming conversations. But as I say, this is all very new to me. So I'm learning as I go along, and I sort of invite you to do the same. So a few things that came up in the book today, I wrote them down. I wrote them to notes. State your intentions. I thought that was interesting. So when you get into a conversation like this, state what your intention is, which I think I kind of have. So this is to learn about how we've got to where we are today, and to look for a way forward where we can change a system that seems to be systemically racist towards people of color. So I think that's my intention. That's what I'm trying to do here. Remember what your top priority in the conversation is, and don't let your emotions override that. So that's an interesting one. Was like, don't get, it's very easy to sort of come in stating these, very lofty goals and aren't I fabulous, and then get all sort of like defensive and freak out about it. And I am like squirrel. I'm terribly distracted. I will blame my ADHD, but it's just me. So I will bounce around a bit. But the point being is that the reason for reading this book, maybe not the reason for my Burn and Learns, but the whole point of the Burn and Learns is to learn something. So I feel that this book, especially now, is a great way for me to learn about something that I know virtually nothing about. So research, do it. I like that. So the idea is like, don't. This sort of gets to the next one. Don't make your anti-racism argument oppressive against... Oh, no, that's not the next one. Okay, so wait a sec. So research, do it. So if the stuff you don't understand, look it up. And that is something... That's what I'm trying to do with this book. So I'm hoping the book will give me a basic overview, and then I can explore things that I don't understand later on. This will be one coming up in a second. But don't make your anti-racism argument oppressive against other groups. Okay. Don't think that's something that's happening here, but that's, I guess something to look out for. When you start to feel defensive, stop and ask yourself why. This is a tough one. This is a tough one because I've definitely found myself in conversations about sort of affirmative action and how do we level the playing field and stuff. And I've definitely found myself getting sort of like, well, that's wrong. That shouldn't be like that. And to the point where you find yourself saying, but all races matter. And I thought in addressing that recently, I think the assumption has to be that all races matter, obviously. But the point now is that all races only matter when Black lives matter. as well, right? So Black Lives Matter. The great analogy I heard recently, actually last night, was one of my wife's friends who was over for like a socially distanced wine party. Bring your own glass, basically. And she said that the way it was described to her kid in school was that your house is on fire. And your neighbor runs out and says, "But my house is important too." Well, maybe now's not the time. So I thought that was a neat way of putting it. I don't understand what this one says, because it says I have to go look at at chapter 15 yet, and I'm trying to sort of go through it in order. So it says, "Do not tone police." I don't know what that means, and I'm sure we'll find out. If you are white, watch how many times you say "I" and "me." Oh my God, that's totally me. That's I, me, I, that all the time. This is a tough one, because it is, I say "I" all the time, and "me." It's always that. So I think the point being is, how do we look at this from a systemic, institutionalized racism rather than my own personal experiences on this stuff? While this is my personal experience of trying to learn about it, it's about something obviously much, much larger than me. We're talking about people, like people's lives that are impacted by this, and continue to be affected by them. So ask yourself, am I trying to be right, or am I trying to do better? I'm usually trying to do both, but am I trying to be right, or am I trying to do better? I think I'd like to be better. I would like to be better. I think I've reached a point where I'm done with being right. I feel like I've been right up until now, and I realize that's not the case. So I think I'm beyond that stage, and I'm into the trying to do better. But who knows? I mean, I may come up against stuff I'm not comfortable with. Who knows? I mean, none of this is comfortable, obviously, but that's sort of the point. Do not force people of color into discussions of race. I am the most guilty of this, and I thought the whole point was, I thought I was saying, like, well, I'm white, I can't speak to people of color's experiences. Go for it. And in doing so, I mean, if you're a person of color and you're living this stuff all day, every day, to be in a conversation where you're suddenly faced with then having to explain it to everyone else. I mean, Google it, for God's sake. Look it up yourself. You speak to it, but don't force other people to speak to it. And I have done that. I did that this week. I did that in Tech Bandits this week. We had the Steam Sisters on, and because part of my discussions has been trying to incorporate this whole idea of equality and sort of systemic racism, how that's addressed with the kids, and talking about it with the kids and getting their perspective on stuff. And because the Steam Sisters are women of color, I sort of deferred to them, but I realized in doing so, I was escaping having to make that discussion. That was an awkward thing that I didn't feel like I could speak to because I'm white, but I threw it entirely on them to do. And they were, I gotta say, like amazingly eloquent, as always. They're amazing about it. But I realized in looking back, that my dealings, I've always avoided the topic of color and race. And now that I want to talk about it, I'm throwing it on them and on other people of color as well. So that is something that I'm now very aware of, and I guess I have to apologize for, because I thought I was doing the right thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing, right? So anyways, so that's my thought on that, which actually reminds me, I should probably email them and apologize about that. But as I say, they just, I mean, the two of them are just such amazing sort of educators and science communicators, and they just, I'm sort of blown away by their skills. So I think I defer to them, and I'm making excuses now, aren't I? So yes, that was the wrong way of doing that, and I have done it before with other people, and I guess I'll have to address that as well. So there you go. So a few things to think about. I thought they were very interesting. So obviously value your thoughts on this stuff. I gotta say, I'm not jumping into the fray on everything. There's a few things here and there when I have some time and to think about it and word it in a good way. I try to I try to get in there. But there you go. That's my Burn Alert for the day. I will be returning, I guess, the day after tomorrow with this stuff. And what have we got? And this afternoon, I've got a Twitch stream with Print and Play, which I'm really looking forward to as well. Print and Play and his friend as well, I think, well, although Print and Play is organizing it, so we'll see what's going on there. But I'll see you this afternoon on that, where we'll be talking about 3D printing, which is a lot easier for me, but perhaps not quite as important as this stuff. So thank you very much, and until we geek again, sweaty or not, cheerio!